Korean speakers watching the Netflix series Squid Game were quick to point out that the English translations didn't always match up to the dialogue. Wired reached out to Korean language professor Ju-won-sun to see what English speakers might be missing out on.
This part, the translation is definitely sanitized. Two main differences I noticed in translations are address terms.
감사합니다, 사장님.
And the swearing expressions.
Today we're going to be talking about English subtitles, not the dub version.
You know where your son happens to be now?
On business in the United States.
That's a whole nother video. So let's start with the address terms.
뭐든지 시켜만 줘.
오빠.
사장님들.
영감님.
오빠. 다 아주머니 아니야.
Pay attention to the translated word sir in this scene in episode 2 between Ali, the Pakistani immigrant, and Sang-woo, the stockbroker.
나 사장님 아니니까 사장님 소리 좀 그만하고.
The meaning of 사장님 is the president of company or CEO of the company. The meaning itself is extended to many different situations. So anybody who looks like in a suit and then a little bit older and then everybody starts calling that person 사장님.
감사합니다, 사장님.
So Ali is using that 사장님 in calling a lot of male characters in the show.
Korean speakers use honorifics constantly when speaking to each other. You can hear it here,
감사합니다, 사장님.
here,
한쪽이 선생님.
and here.
영감님.
It would be impossible to translate all of these in Squid Game because they're so ubiquitous. But the way the characters address each other shows the evolution of their relationship. Listen carefully when Sang-woo asks Ali to call him by his first name.
그럼 그냥 형이라고 해.
He's actually using this term.
그럼 그냥 형이라고 해.
Sang-woo asks Ali to call him 형, then he's using intimate ending. In the Korean language, we don't call each other by our first names. We are not really first name based society. 형 refers to older brother or elder brother of a man. That 형 word is a big brother, is extended to other social relationships. So that means that we are close. Before, we didn't know each other well, but now we know each other and we are getting closer. That's why that marble scene, it was really heartbreaking when Ali keeps calling 형.
형! 상우 형!
So basically, he thinks that Sang-woo is almost like a brother to him, that he was betrayed.
상우 형!
In that sense, it's more heartbreaking if you know what 형 and 사장님 mean in the Korean language.
Another example of an honorific sharing relationship is Han Mi-yo's use of oppa.
맞지, 오빠?
오빠.
오빠.
I don't think babe is an accurate translation for oppa. Oppa means older brother to a woman. Oppa is definitely a family term, a family relationship term, but at the same time, it's extended to a romantic relationship between a man and a woman. So when you start between man and a woman starts calling the other man oppa, that means that it's kind of like, okay, we are getting closer as a woman and a man. Han Min-yo character was trying to do that with the Chang Dok-soo character.
맞지, 오빠?
오빠. 내가 진짜 오빠 맞아?
Because oppa implies the woman is younger than the man, when Dek-soo says, "Is that right?"
내가 진짜 오빠 맞아?
he's actually saying he's not older than her.
That, it's not like I'm not a man or you are not a woman. It's more like you look older than I am. It's a switch to age difference. And she asked him, like, how old do you think I am? And then he's like saying 49 and 39, 29. And he was playing with that age thing. Address terms are extremely difficult when you have to translate the Korean into English.
Next up, let's talk about swearing.
In some translations, Korean cursing words are translated into like scumbag, jerk, and idiot. They don't really convey the harshness of the Korean cursing words, cursing expressions.
나 인연이랑 아직 얘기가 안 끝났는데.
이 새끼? 이 새끼.
The word 새끼 is translated as jerk most of the time. But I don't think it's the right translation. 새끼 literally means a baby animal, like a baby of any animals. If you do that, you are basically cursing at your mother.
야, 이 개새끼야.
So that's the whole idea. But I think it's a little bit more serious than jerk.
One of the difficulties of translation is conveying meaning quickly, because subtitles are rarely over 2 lines. But what's lost in translation when a swear word is translated to a PG term?
It's not just about swearing words, and some expressions are very vulgar, and that's also kind of stands out to me.
Let's take a look at the character Han Mi Niao.
This part, the translation is definitely sanitized. That's definitely not scumbag. Sibaloma is like okay, I just said it. Oh my gosh, on camera. Okay, it's like a F word. It's I would say fucking bastard, that kind of thing. No one even says scumbag anymore. An interesting thing is her background was really not explained in the show. I think the cursing and using all this low class expressions, the way she's expressing that I gotta go to the bathroom in a kind of very vulgar way. It's not cursing word, but the way she describes her state was just really very bad. Linguistically, it's kind of interesting to see her background through her use of language.
Translation is an incredibly difficult job, and the success of Squid Game shows how well the show did overall.
Overall, it's pretty accurate in terms of conveying the storyline. I could ask a little bit more in subtlety and a little bit like a nuance. If you don't know the language and you have to depend on the subtitles, of course you miss a lot of things. It's not because it's the Korean language and English translation. It's any kind of language and translation.
Netflix international language series continue to gain in popularity. Squid Game's success likely means we're going to see more and more translations. So what can audiences take away from discussing the nuances of the original Korean?
English is the lingua franca. So everybody speaks English. Even if you go to France, then you can travel speaking English. Sometimes the English-speaking people think that the other languages are not as sophisticated because you don't know and you don't speak that language. Through subtitle shows, you can say, okay, the other language I don't know, but it has a lot of cultural nuances and a richer in its own way.